All right, we'd like to welcome everybody out to our webinar today, Job Costing Made Easy. We're going to give, we see there's still people hopping on, so we're going to give it about another 30 to 60 seconds, let everybody get on. So if you'll just sit tight for a moment, please. All right, well, we'd like to welcome everybody out to our webinar today. The topic today is Job Costing Made Easy. Before we get started, I want to just ask everybody to utilize the chat box to ask any questions you might have. We'll address those at the end of the meeting. Please silence your phone and close or minimize other windows you may have open. That'll give you a better user experience. And of course, we'll send a recording of this when we are finished. My name is Troy Guevara. I'm one of the enterprise solutions engineers here at BusyBusy. I spend my days marrying the construction world to the IT world. Joining me today is Dustin Chapman. He's a former project manager turned IT guru, construction IT guru, I should say. He's one of our account executives. Dustin, you want to say hi to everybody there?
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Troy. I'm very happy to be here today and talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about, that is my day-to-day life and was for many years.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Dustin. All right. Well, today we're going to be speaking about the painful situation that we have in construction today, and we'll get into the depths of that and the chasm that exists that's causing most of that pain. We'll talk about some of the effects of that, and then we'll get into really the heart of what we wanted to talk to you about today, and that's easy job costing. And of course, we'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A. But before we get started, what we'd like to do is go ahead and start with a poll question, if we could. So I didn't mention that earlier, but we're going to have a few polls here. So if you guys would participate in those polls, that'd be very helpful. So the first one today, we're going to go ahead and launch this one. Dustin, you want to go ahead and share this with everybody?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so our first quick poll today, how many employees are there in your company? You can select from the following answers: 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 35, 36 to 50, or 51 or more.
Okay, we'll give it just a second. Let everybody finish responding. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close this poll, and then Dustin, you see those results there. Gives you an idea of the demographics of who's attending today's webinar. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide here. This is the kind of a painful situation. It's one of those unknown pains, you know, that you don't know you really have. It's more painful than most people realize. And because we don't know what we don't know, there's two common practices that we see every day in what we do. The first is this: companies want their guys to work. They want their guys to work. They say, just give me your hours, stay focused on the job, get the job done as quickly as you can so we can make as much money as possible. The second one is companies try to gather as much data as possible, including labor, based on projects, cost codes, phase codes, equipment, anything that they think and feel is measurable on the job site. And this is great. But what happens is we put too much on those employees with loads of paperwork to be able to do all this. And often what happens is it's not done in a timely fashion. And so not only is the data late, but because they don't do it that same day, it's inaccurate, and it doesn't really contain the value that it really could contain. And we've seen all kinds of fancy documents that never get filled out properly. And even if they do, they're not making it back to the office like they should. I mentioned a minute ago the chasm, and that chasm is really keeping things from getting from the field to the office. And so that's one of the challenges. The other is the guys have to take the time to fill out the paperwork. And we all know at the end of any person's day, they're too tired. The last thing they want to do is sit down and take another 5 or 10 minutes to fill out paperwork, right? Dustin, you see this stuff all the time.
Yeah, we like to joke here, construction professionals are spreadsheet masters, right? they're masters of all things Excel. We see it every day, and we see different ways of doing it. But the bottom line is that it's almost always inaccurate. It's either if you're lucky, it's filled out at the end of the day. But of course, if it's 6 or 7 o'clock on a job site and they're still there, it's not going to be accurate if it's done daily. If it's done weekly, what we see there is the famous, Monday morning standing around filling out time cards or filling out any other reports, and it, guys are copying off each other and trying to remember where they were last Tuesday. We see all kinds of ways of doing that, but the real key here is accuracy. The more accurate you can make the information, the better off you'll be. The more data that you will have, and the better decisions that you'll be able to make.
I appreciate you sharing that, Dustin. We're going to get into that a little bit later in our presentation here. Dustin, I'm going to go ahead and do another poll here. Go ahead and share that one if you would, please.
Of course. So the question here is, how does your field team report daily job site data, including time? And you can select from the following answers: paper time cards, text or email, BusyBusy for time or other for daily reports, BusyBusy for both time and daily reports, or we use a different system or process.
All right, we'll give that just a minute here as the numbers are coming in. All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead and close that poll. You'll see these results here. And go ahead and share that, Dustin.
Yeah, so it looks like some of you are still using paper time cards. More of you are using text and email. Some are using, it's like the majority of you are using BusyBusy for time and something else for your daily reports. 9% of you using BusyBusy for both your time and your daily reports, and 23% using a different system or process altogether.
Okay, go ahead and let's move on to the next slide. Thanks for participating in that, everybody. All right, this report here is from a recent study that was done, and it kind of confirmed what we'd already suspected in the industry, is that even though there have been all these great advances in the construction tech, we're still seeing a lot of construction companies still using paper to get the most data out of the job site.
Yeah, and the thing we want you to take away from here, everybody, is, the thing to think about as you're looking at this. Labor is always the #1 variable expense for contractors. It's the biggest thing that you have. It's the biggest single cost that you have. It's the biggest unknown that you have going into any project, but it's the information we have the least amount of accurate data on. We often hear the phrase, and I'll spare you the the language, but crap in and crap out. In construction, we, and sometimes literally, have crap on our data. If it's the most important single cost that we have, why do nearly 70% of contractors do that in an inefficient manner? And what I'm saying there is combining paper or text or email, that equals almost 70%. Why are we letting that single biggest cost or variable we have be the item that we have the least amount of information on?
That's right, and of course, a lot of the people that are on this, a little bit different than that. They're starting to use BusyBusy, and we want to help you guys accelerate your use of that. But here's what I was talking about earlier: the chasm, the gulf, the gap, whatever you want to call it. It does exist, and we know this. And this is what it looks like: is we've got this big chasm. On the one side, you have your field, the project site. On the other side, you've got the office. And the battle is you're constantly trying to bridge that chasm. How do we get back and forth? And so, of course, we have some technology that tries to help bridge that. We always have a really important person, our superintendents, and we know the value of a great job site superintendent. They're the ones that make or break the profitability on a job, as we all know. And their job is to communicate between the two. They're trying to create that visual for the office. This is what's happening on the job, and on the job they're trying to create that visual. For the office, they're trying to create that visual on the job, saying, guys, this is what we need to be doing, and the office is giving us this feedback. And so they're kind of that liaison between the two. But do we give them really the tools they need to make the job site run as efficiently as possible? And Dustin, you know this, as a former project manager, you've seen this. You've seen it in action. Share with me kind of what a typical job site review you used to go through as a PM was like.
Yeah, a lot of times what I think we get stuck in is managing budgets instead of managing events, right? Those buckets that you see there, that is your cost coding. Luckily, generationally in construction, it's all been set up for us. We have different buckets with which to put things in. We have different ways of setting up our budgets, and although there's different methods for doing that, it's pretty straightforward across the industry. I mean, there is some form of it that exists in every segment and every company out there. As a young PM, I used to sit in review meetings with my bosses and get harassed by that one item that was over budget. There could be 9 items that were under budget, but they'd look at that one item that was under budget or that was over budget and really quiz me on that one. So what did I used to do? If we look at the next slide there, what it should look like is this. We should be able to be okay with one bucket overflowing and one bucket, being not as full. But of course, the tendency we have is to try to make them even, like you're seeing there. I remember looking at jobs and looking at my job cost report and knowing that, the foundation labor was under, but the footing labor was over. And so what did I do naturally to avoid, difficult situations in meetings or getting harassed in meetings? I would make the buckets equal. I would shift labor from one cost code to the other. But does that tell the accurate story? Does that really tell us what happened on the job? Does that make us better? No, it doesn't. We need to train our managers to manage things as they are and to not be afraid to let the numbers tell the story, for better or for worse. And on a lot of this, guys, to be honest with you, it's not completely our fault. I mean, we're trained to build as close to perfect, to build things that are as close to perfection as we can get. The best foremen and superintendents we have all run the cleanest job sites. We don't like messes out in the field. And so when we get in the office, that transitions there. It transitions into our job costing, and it shouldn't. Proper job costing really is that phrase there. Cost codes don't care about the budget. It doesn't care what the numbers are. It just wants accuracy. So we need to be able to train our managers to be okay with that, to be okay with things going over and under, and to paint a more accurate picture of what actually happens on a job, rather than, as that first slide has, that every bucket's just even across the board. That doesn't help us get better.
And as painful as it is in the beginning, in the end, it actually evens out buckets. Some buckets become bigger than others, but they're accurate, right?
Right. It's impossible to accurately estimate. If the estimator always thinks he's doing the best job in the world and that all of his budgets are perfect, he's just going to keep doing that. and if he's unaware that what really happened out in the field, he's not going to change it. The only way to change it is through making things as accurate as they can be with our job costing.
All right, let's go ahead, and I'm going to launch another poll here, Dustin, regarding talking about cost codes here.
Yeah, so here's our quick poll here. Does your organization use cost codes for tracking labor activity? The answer is, select one of the following. Yes, all labor is tracked to a cost code. Yes, but they don't get used effectively. No, we don't, but they could help with job costing. Or no, we don't, and we don't really see the value.
Okay. And we want to help our customers see that value. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this. You guys, that's kind of the results we're going to see here. As you can see that yes, but they don't get used effectively, right? That's what'll probably come up. Yep, sure enough.
Yeah, that's. And listen, this is not an uncommon thing. And that's really what we're here to try to help you with today, is to create the most we can to make it as effective as we can.
Yeah, and these are the effects, and I don't know that we always realize that this is the effects of what's happening. So because we all know that this chasm is preventing that clear communication, naturally we put in a contingency in our bids, right, to cover some of these issues. But do we cover them all? These are some that we're seeing. Dustin, what contingencies did you used to see?
Yeah, contingencies are always funny to me. I mean, we work really hard to get those contingencies, right? Every job should have them in, and whatever, as many job cost codes as we can. But the way I used to try to manage is, as best I could, as though they weren't there, because they are there for emergencies. They're there. Those emergencies shouldn't happen on every job. If we're setting aside contingencies and we're constantly using it, then we need to. Again, it's all about data. If we're going into contingency, then why wasn't it there in the first place? If we're consistently going into that, we need to just make it part of our job costs and be accurate and be real with ourselves and with the information that's there.
Yeah, and our job costs become these buckets like you talked about, and we just kind of dump our numbers into them to even them up, right? And that creates more problems everywhere else, because as we all know, it affects our production, it affects morale, it can affect cash flow. We all know how important cash flow is in the construction world. I mean, let's be honest, nobody requires more cash than construction companies, and construction's the heart of America, right? We all carry, as contractors, we all carry that burden on our back. And ultimately, if we don't have proper measurements, it provides inaccurate bids and estimates, and the worst case scenario is it ruins our profitability. So a lot of little challenges there, all because we can't measure things properly. And of course, right now things are good and things are profitable and there's plenty of work, but in the tighter bid markets, the results become catastrophic. So Dustin, before we move to the next one, I'm going to have you share another poll, if you would.
Of course.
Let's go ahead and launch this one.
Okay, so our next poll here: how often do you update your job labor costs? And of course, that labor cost can be job costing, cost coding, and it goes by many names in the industry. Select one of the following: daily. We try to do it daily, but it doesn't always happen. Weekly, at the end of each phase, at the end of each job, and then although it's not there could be another option there that we see occasionally, which is at the end of the season or at the end of the year. That would be the not good one.
All right, and this is alluding to, this is what we're trying to do, is show that this really can be done on a daily basis. So I'm going to close this poll. Let's see what the results are. Yeah, there we go. Dustin, go ahead and share that.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me that at the end of each job is the winner there. Quite normal to have that happen, and it's quite normal in our industry because we get so busy and we get to the end of the job, we close it out, and that's when we tend to do that review. So those are not surprising results.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and hide those, and we'll hop onto the next section here. So what we want to do now is close this gap, not just bridge it, but we want to close it, because we just saw our results there. As the bridge does get us that data, but it's not doing it on a daily basis. And so we want to close that gap so that we can move on to a quicker methodology. We can have better job costing. And the way to do that is by utilizing the smart job site technology that's been created. Now, there's plenty of ERP systems, accounting systems, all kinds of software that gather this data. But what they don't have, they all can get what we call SMAR data, but they don't have the timely portion. And without that timely portion, we don't close the gap, we only bridge it. And that's what we're talking about here. We need the ability to close the gap so that you can get this information back to you on a daily basis, and it's got to be easy job costing, and that's what we're talking about here. So with all the advancements we've had in technology, we still lack that timeliness, and that's what BusyBusy does here.
Right. And as I mentioned earlier, and it really is displayed here, labor is the single largest variable expense we have on any job and in any company. But a lot of times, you know, again, we see all different levels of companies here at BusyBusy, but you know, sometimes, often we don't know which job the guys are on, you know, or how many jobs they're on a day, let alone actually knowing how much time they're spending on a specific project, or how much time they're spending on a specific activity, okay, or how much time that specific activity took them to do as compared to the last 10 times they did that same activity. Okay, those are the things that we need to be striving for. We need to be striving for, you know, replicable data that will help us understand what our employees are doing and why it's taking them, you know, X amount of time to do a specific activity and how it compares to the last 10 times they've done that same activity. It's impossible to improve if we don't know what's truly going on. Oftentimes we rely on our gut feeling, and it's worked for decades in this industry, but a lot of times we base that gut feeling off of incomplete data, and we really don't know the full picture. So easy and proper job costing, as you're seeing on the screen there, it improves the visibility and makes it so that you can make better decisions with more complete knowledge.
That's right, and this is the power of what BusyBusy does, is it brings you that information, what we call smart data. It's easy job costing so that we get it from the job site to the office and custom reports as needed. And many times these reports are simply a phone app. So that data can be seen in a timely fashion. We're not having to wait days or weeks to get that information. The key to all this is a timely piece, right? And as we've already discussed, this chasm is huge, right? We have to not just bridge it, but we have to move the data from one side to the other by closing the gap and doing that in such a timely fashion that easy, simple job costing platform will provide that for you, and it will allow you to do that. So let me kind of share with you how that is done. Okay. Simple job costing, easy job costing. This is all we need to do. We need to be able to identify the project. Of course, we identify the employee, identify the project, identify any cost codes, phase codes, tasks, whatever it is, identify the equipment, and then have the employees participate in some sort of putting in a description, a daily journal, just simple stuff, and we'll get into the details of that here in a minute. But it shouldn't be any more complicated than this. And it's got to be so simple that the guys want to do it in real time. Okay, it can't be loads of paperwork at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you know, I know Troy and I have painted a picture for you on a chasm, and you know, maybe that things are dire, things like that, but the solution doesn't have to be difficult. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. What we're trying to do here, what we've seen work time and time again, is just getting basic information that we already know, but just getting it to be accurately recorded and getting it to be recorded, you know, in any way. I mean, most of you out there, business owners, let's take our employee Mike. We know what he's doing. We know that he's over at the Valley Apartments building a retaining wall, then he's going to lunch, and then he's going to go over and start digging footings in the afternoon. We know that. But the fact that we don't put that down anywhere or accurately record that and link that to several data points, that's the process that we're talking about doing that can make a real difference in your company. Data is, once it's referenceable, once it's digital, we can do so much with it. Because it's database, we can extrapolate the data any number of ways to find trends. You know, the best way to me to think of it is, think of the old library catalog system that we used to have, you know, and how we used to go do reports and find information in encyclopedias, in other books. You had to go through one by one looking at things because it wasn't digital or searchable. You know, hopefully you guys remember those days. I'm sure most of you do. They were not fun. I mean, but once Google came along and the internet, you know, it revolutionized the way we can consume any information, because all of a sudden we could search anything and everything, and we could not only search books, but we could search the words in books. That's what making this data digital and getting it in a digital format does for us in our modern day. It makes it so that we can pull up the recallability of any information that we have. It makes it very easy and quick to do, whether it be from your phone or from a website, and it can be done for any project, current or 6 months old or a year old or 10 years old.
And it sounds complicated, but it's actually quite easy to do. And that's the key to all this. It has to be easy job costing, right? We have to, and the term I use, and I don't like to be condescending, and this, I don't mean it to come across that way, but it's got to be idiot proof. The guy's got to be able to just clock in, choose those tasks really quickly, clock out. They don't have to do anything beyond that. It's really simple. Dustin, go ahead and take them through this, if you would, please.
Yeah, and those guys out in the field, the reason it's got to be easy is that, I mean, if it's not easy, they won't do it. They've got so many other things going on that if it's not easy, they just don't do it. You know, what you're seeing on the screen there, you know, on the left and the right, the right is the more, you know, database information. It's once we've got it in, but on the left, you can see just how easy it is to put in. It's selecting, it's clocking in and selecting a project and a cost code and a piece of equipment, and then it's adding a description. And you know, we see people a lot of the time in is they're adding a description, putting in the work. That doesn't even have to be a complicated process either. Of course, the more detailed they give you, the better. But a lot of times they can type it in, or they can even, you know, use the voice to text on their phone. You know, they can just speak into it. You know, we get all the time that, you know, that your concrete foreman or that anybody, you know, they've got they fat finger everything because they've got, you know, construction material lodged in their fingerprints, and it's hard to type. So we see a lot of companies do, even if they don't, you know, type out this description here, they just use the voice to text in their phone and tell you exactly what's going on, talk into it at the end of their day, and get that data there on paper and in a searchable manner.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. And when you add this simple method of job costing, this easy job costing as we're calling it, these are the results that we're seeing. It's the real power of smart data. And our customers are finding these results in the profitability range of 25 to 30% after 12 months of utilizing this tool the way that it was meant to be utilized. Those are fantastic results, and I don't know anybody that would want to take away the opportunity to make 25 to 30% more profit. That's a pretty simple way to recover some of those losses. Okay, well, I'm going to move on. I want to share a couple case studies with you guys. I call this the tale of two Bens. And I share this because these are kind of extremes. We've got, you see the Ben on the right, he's from New York City. The Ben on the left, he's from Salt Lake City. They're two completely different construction markets. As you can imagine, New York City's got a lot more kind of red tape, if I can call it that, to get projects done. Salt Lake's very little red tape. Projects are done quickly. As far as like the admin side goes, not a lot of paperwork required. But this application of easy job costing works in both situations. The first one I want to share with you is Ben with High Country Construction. They run about 60 employees. They're an exterior finishing subcontractor, and they run multiple crews, of course. And Ben wants to be out in the field. He's the type of guy that wants to be out in the field, but he wanted to implement some form of job costing that made things easier. And after we spoke with him, he realized that we could make it possible for him to manage his business by exception. So his process on a daily basis is to review the day's numbers each day, and then he gives personal attention to those job sites that are needed to get them back to the levels where they need to be. He visits those supers and foremen constantly, and he coaches them through those things. And the cool part is he can trust his office staff, which, by the way, is very lean. And I would almost say they're a little bit too lean at the top. But he trusts his office staff because they have the same data, and he sees that data. So he doesn't have to be in the office running things. And he lets them do their job so he can be out doing the part that he loves. And this has allowed him to expand his business and keep things lean at the same time. Now, the next scenario is Ben from New York. Okay, these guys are a developer / GC. I would tell you they're somewhat top heavy, maybe not for a New York construction firm, but compared to maybe most of the rest of the United States, they have a top heavy organization. Some of it's because of the type of work they do. It requires them to be a little bit top heavy, and they've got a little bit larger office staff. But prior to the implementation of easy job costing, Ben was subbing out the majority of their work because they couldn't operationally manage the manpower they needed to maintain control of their job sites. Once they implemented easy job costing, they were able to see the results, and they were able to get this stuff in a timely fashion. He was able to bring the majority, not all of it, but the majority of that labor in-house. The results have been phenomenal, and we've had several conversations with them, and I've said, look, we got to see these numbers. These are hard to even believe. But they've had 600% growth in 2 years. They're now managing over $100 million worth of projects, and they can get into the deep details of every project and cost code, crew, employees, and they utilize this through their office staff, and they share this data with the field in such a timely fashion that the type of work they do, they've been able to reduce. You can see that's a 25% reduction in their remodel costs per rooms, because they're basically taking older buildings and remodeling them and turning them into like hospital type, home care type facilities. And they've been able to reduce those costs dramatically. The cool thing is both case studies represent the power of timely data that's easily obtained through simple job costing techniques. And more importantly, the ease of this does not necessitate the additional staffing that I think a lot of people think, well, geez, if I'm going to do all this, I got to hire more people. No, you don't. And you can't right now. We just don't have the labor pool to do it. So even if you wanted to hire more people to do this, you couldn't. But here's the cool thing. You don't need to. We already have it. We have it in place for you. And it's through the simple tool, BusyBusy and easy job costing. Dustin, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. My biggest takeaway here for both of these companies is the word comfort, right? Which I know is not really a construction word that we use all the time, but I'm going to use it here. 600% growth in 2 years, that's a lot of growth, but it's a huge risk too. I mean, risk is the one thing that we're always trying to avoid in construction, isn't it? I mean, that's the point of contracting in general, right? So to me, what the takeaway is from Ben in New York is that he's comfortable taking a risk to grow his business that quickly because he knows his numbers. He has good data. Okay? Ben in Salt Lake, he isn't quite growing at that rate, but he's still growing, and he's doing that because he can give personal attention to each one of his clients because he has, and each one of his foremen out on the job site, because he has good data. So again, the word I take away there is comfort. What real-time costing data gives these gentlemen is peace of mind and comfort and control over their businesses.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the Q&A portion here. We invite any questions that you guys have. You can go ahead and put them in the questions box of your webinar tools there. Okay. First question I have is, we already measure using cost codes. Why would this be any better than what we already do? And again, the answer to this is, that's fantastic. And we're seeing a lot of companies, and our polls kind of measured that a lot of companies are measuring cost codes. The key is a timeliness and being able to take that data on a daily basis and see the numbers and be able to react to it on a daily basis. Okay. Next question.
Okay, here's one, Troy. How do we as business owners get buy-in on job costing from our employees? I know the poll kind of indicated that maybe it's being done, but it's not being done effectively. My response would that to be the thing that we've seen the most success with is getting buy-in, treating the employees like partners in that sense, letting them know why you need that data, that it's not necessarily a big brother thing, that you're not trying to control them, but more that you're trying to build an efficient business. And the better data that you have, the better decisions that you can make, the more money that you can make on jobs, which ultimately is going to result in more security and hopefully more money for them as well. We've seen that work the best, that approach work the best with your employees, and it also seems to get the most buy-in.
All right, the next question I have here is, can you show me a report that shows details, can you show me a report that shows the details section by day or week? And the answer is yes. And BusyBusy has many reports, but the cool thing is, even if BusyBusy doesn't have that specific report you're looking for, we have the ability to build the report you're looking for. So we can provide that. So I'd invite you, based on these numbers I just posted up here on the screen, call into us. or reach out to us online, and we can show you that information. We'd like to show you something specific to your needs. Okay.
Yeah, whoever's asking that question, my email's not on the screen there, but it's dustin.chapman, CHAPMAN @busybusy.com. Feel free to send me an email, and I'd be happy to show you that report.
Yeah. The next one, Dustin, I would tell them to contact you too, also on this one. How is the pricing model for your product? And again, reach out. Dustin can talk with you about the pricing benefits, what he can do.
I'll say this: price is all based on need. But one of the things I enjoy most about our pricing is that we do what's called a metered billing. That metered billing means that you only pay for who uses, in a given month. It's made to go with the fluctuations that all construction companies have. You literally only get charged for actual usage every month.
Okay. Next question I have is, we use projects, not cost codes, so it would have to be details from the projects. Oh, it was the same person. So yeah, we could get details from the projects. We can actually drill down on the projects and get you items that are further beneath that. To respond to that, your earlier question, yeah, we can still do that for you. Okay. Let's see if we have any others. Okay, I have a question here. Does this work with other accounting systems or ERP systems? Yes, it does. We have a handful of ERP systems and accounting systems that we work with, and in different ways. And again, I would invite you to reach out to us on that. We can talk you through the details of your specific needs there.
Yeah, I don't know that we've run into one that we necessarily haven't been able to work with yet. There's different ways of doing it, but yeah, we want to be your data gathering tool. We don't necessarily want you to have to change your ERP for us. We want to help you get that information in there the easiest possible way.
All right. Next question says that, hey, most here might be familiar with BusyBusy, but I'm not. I agree with your presentation that job cost control is the single most important function because it is the single largest EXP item. But how does it work? Can you offer a quick description, or is there a tutorial? I would say this would be my response to that. Yeah, we can offer a quick description. We'll build out BusyBusy specific to your needs. That's what we can do. So we can, whatever your needs are, whatever you're looking to measure, we can provide that for you, and we can provide it in an easy way to measure it. So you're not having to scroll through a bunch of reports or extrapolate a lot of information. We can make it so that you open up BusyBusy and boom, you see the numbers right there. And there's always going to be, at the end of the week, you're always going to say, oh, wait, I might need to adjust this or this. But those are so minor that they're not huge issues. The huge issues will pop out immediately. But if you can find the time to get on a meeting with one of our representatives, we can show you specifically how you would build that out for your business. And of course, we could give you a tutorial there also, walk you through anything you need. But we're happy to help you as needed. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Next question was, does this require that each employee have a smartphone? No. So it can be done two ways, and we see this all the time. About 70% of our customers, all their employees, or the majority of their employees, have smartphones. About 30% have what we call a foreman clock in or clock out the employees. So you can make it so that each employee tracks their own time, and we have ways to keep the integrity of that valid. And then we also have a way that the foreman can be measuring time, or whoever's running the job site can be measuring time for all the employees. And it's still the same simple clock in, clock out methodology, so that those numbers are still there as you need it. Great questions. Thank you. Dustin, did you see any other questions there that I didn't?
No, I think that's yeah, those are great questions, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody's attendance today. We will get this recording over to you, and I think if you're looking for a certificate of attendance, please reach out to us, and I think we can provide that to you also. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
Yeah, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.